Good morning. I'm Marty Bandier, Chairman and CEO of Sony ATV Music Publishing. As the largest music publisher, Sony ATV owns or administers nearly 3 million songs and represents the most unique and comprehensive and diverse catalog of music. Formed in 1995 as a 50-50 joint venture between Sony and Michael Jackson, the company includes the unparalleled Beatles catalog as well as songs by iconic artists like Dylan, Joni Mitchell, and of course, Michael Jackson. Let me give you a few examples of some of the most iconic music catalogs that make up our company. The legendary Lieber and Stoller catalog includes hit songs recorded by Elvis Presley like Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock, as well as incredible evergreen songs like Stand By Me and On Broadway. The famous music catalog, which we acquired in 2007 from Viacom, comprises classic film music, including themes to Star Trek, Mission Impossible, and The Godfather. And last year, and as of last year, we manage EMI Music Publishing, which includes the extraordinary Motown catalog, as well as songs from the glory days of motion picture musicals from MGM and United Artists like Singing in the Rain, Meet Me in St. Louis, and The Wizard of Oz. The acquisition of EMI presents us with several important opportunities and benefits, and it provides access to the world's greatest catalog of music spanning many decades and genres. Since the acquisition in June of 2012, our priority has been to devote all necessary resources to integrate EMI into Sony ATV's business, and we remain on schedule to complete this 24-month transition. Using Sony ATV's state-of-the-art licensing and administration systems, we expect to reduce EMI's pre-acquisition overhead costs by an impressive 66%. As part of the acquisition, Sony ATV administers EMI's copyrights and receives a fee based on its earnings. Under this arrangement, we participate in the growth of EMI, as does Sony Corporation, through its equity interest. Having run and helped build EMI for over 17 years prior to joining Sony, I'm personally excited to once again work with this incredible catalog and its world-class songwriters. For all of us in the music publishing industry, it's all about the song. That is, the words and music, rather than the recorded performance of a song. A music publisher owns, manages, and exploits musical compositions and receives royalties or fees for their use. Every commercial use of a song, whether in a recording or advertisement, whether broadcast on radio or TV, or performed in public or otherwise, requires a license and payment to the songwriter and music publisher. Accordingly, we generate revenues from record companies, performing rights organizations, online services, advertisers, and film and TV producers, among many others. As a result of this diversified business-to-business revenue stream, music publishing has been somewhat resilient to the adverse trends affecting the music industry. Looking forward, analysts estimate our industry to grow at a rate of 2.1% between 2013 and 2016. It's our belief at Sony ATV that we will outpace the industry in all areas. Additionally, music publishing is characterized by high margins, low overhead costs, and stable cash flows. As you can see on this slide, there are three main types of revenue that we generate. Mechanical income, which are the royalties paid from the sale of a CD or a digital download of a song like on iTunes. public performance income, which is the royalty earned for performance of a song on radio, TV, cable broadcasts, or music streamed over the internet, like on Spotify and in live venues, bars, and nightclubs. And as you can see from this chart, performance income is the largest part of our income mix. This is in part due to the music contained in the large film and TV catalogs that we represent, such as Sony Pictures, CBS, and MTV networks. The third main category of income is synchronization, which are the fees paid by licensees for the songs used in films, television shows, advertisements, and video games. We typically negotiate directly with the customer for these types of licenses, and we maintain a best-in-class sales and marketing team to proactively pitch our songs for these uses. Other types of licensing income that we receive include theatrical stage productions, print and sheet music, apps, and any other type of merchandise that use our copyrights. I think the best way to understand our business is by seeing it in action. So we've put together a brief video using one of our most famous songs, the Beatles' All You Need Is Love, to show the numerous and diverse ways that a song can be used and, importantly, generate income. I think the video very much reflects the numerous and frequent ways that songs are used, all of which generate revenue. I think the only place that we haven't been able to collect royalties is when you guys sing in the shower, and trust me, we're working on fixing that loophole as we're sitting here today. I think the video highlighted just one of our nearly 3 million songs that we control. With the addition of EMI, Sony ATV is the largest music publisher with an estimated global market share of 31%. The next leading publisher is Universal with 22%, followed by Warner Chappell at 14%, and other publishers include hundreds of other smaller independent companies. Our number one position is supported by our commitment to signing the very best emerging talent in the world. We maintain 34 offices in 24 countries and offices in New York, London, Sydney, Hong Kong, and Buenos Aires, among many others. Each of our affiliates is charged with strategically signing local talent in addition to aggressively marketing and licensing our song catalog. Our teams around the world are led by some of the most respected executives in the music industry, including Jody Gerson in Los Angeles, who you'll hear from shortly. Jody oversees the Los Angeles creative staff as well as our film and television divisions. Danny Strick in New York, who oversees the New York creative staff, as well as the Latin American and country music divisions. Troy Tomlinson in Nashville, who runs our hugely successful country music office. Jorge Mejia in Miami, who runs our equally successful Latin American office. Guy Moot in London, who manages our UK office and who also oversees our coordinated pan-European A&R team. This is a unique team of creative executives who are responsible for signing talent with cross-border appeal, regardless of geography. And finally, Guy Henderson in London, who oversees continental Europe, South Africa, Asia, and Australia, and he does a lot of traveling. Our number one position in global market share is very much a result of our management team's commitment to growing our company at the local level. In order to maintain this industry-leading position, we've developed 3 basic strategies. The first, we will continue to proactively license and market our incredible catalog of popular music for all the uses as you saw in the video. Second, through our highly respected A&R teams, we'll maintain our number one position by discovering, signing, and developing the best new songwriters in the world. And finally, as digital represents the biggest and best growth opportunity for us, we'll continue to grow our digital earnings by entering into new deals with digital music providers and by renewing and enhancing our existing deals whenever possible. As I mentioned earlier, our company truly represents many of the most celebrated songwriters and artists of the last 100 years, including some of the most recognizable songs of all time. In fact, we represent over 1,000 number one songs in the US and UK from the past 85 years. If I didn't know that for a fact, I wouldn't believe it either. No other publisher represents so many of the most unforgettable songs of all time, from Santa Claus is Coming to Town and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas to New York, and Somewhere Over the Rainbow, as well as themes from motion pictures like Rocky, the Pink Panther, and James Bond. I think I could go on and on and on. And as I think you saw on the previous slide, our catalog is distinguished by its breadth, scope, and diversity. We don't rely on any single song, catalog, or songwriter for a significant portion of our revenue. No single song represents more than 0.4% of total revenue, and less than 10% of all revenue earnings are generated by the top 100 songs. And as you can see on this slide of the top earning titles, our highly diverse catalog of songs does not focus on one genre or decade. Lady Gaga's Born This Way and Adele's Rolling in the Deep were among the top earning songs from the past 12 months, as well as music from several current TV series like Criminal Minds and NCIS, and from classic artists like the Beatles and movies like The Wizard of Oz. For me, what's striking about this list is that the songs that are decades old still generate tremendous revenue because of the many ways that songs can be utilized and licensed in today's world. Again, I think you saw that in the video. The key to implementing our strategy for continued growth is to leverage the quality and size of our catalog by taking advantage of strategic and profitable opportunities. One of these opportunities is theatrical productions, where Sony ATV has participated in licensing major musicals and stage plays focused around our iconic songs and songwriters. This includes long-running Broadway hits like Jersey Boys and Mamma Mia, as well as the Beatles' Love Show in Las Vegas. And one of our more recent successes is Motown the Musical, which I'd highly recommend you see the next time you're in New York. I think you'll love it, and we could always use the money. Another area where we can leverage our unique position in the market is in film, with the production of biopics of some of our iconic artists and writers whose songs are included in our catalog. Some of the films currently in various stages of production include biopics of Hank Williams and Freddie Mercury of Queen. And in addition, there are many songwriters in our catalog that would make compelling subjects of films, including Stevie Wonder and the legendary John Lennon. In video games, we've been quite successful in placing our songs with the best-selling titles such as Grand Theft Auto 5, where we had over 40 licensed songs, and sports titles like FIFA 14. We've also been quite proactive in developing artist and catalog-themed episodes for TV shows. Recently, the Fox show Glee aired a two-part episode built entirely around the music of the Beatles. Our songs are also well represented in current Sony television shows like The Blacklist and The Goldbergs. And we also actively license our songs to music programs such as The Voice, American Idol, X Factor. And to date, since these shows began airing, we've licensed over 3,000 songs in America alone, a rather staggering number. In addition to building our catalog through strategic acquisitions, like we did with EMI and Famous Music, we're constantly adding copyrights by signing new writer deals. Here to speak about our writer roster is our co-president of the United States company, Jody Gerson.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Marty. Sony ATV not only represents the most iconic music of all time, it also represents the most acclaimed collection of hit-making songwriters of our time, including pop superstars Taylor Swift, Pink, and Lady Gaga, who, by the way, her album came out this week and she came in at #1. Urban icons Kanye West, Usher, and Drake. Breakthrough rockers OneRepublic and Fun. We also have Latin crossover stars like Pitbull, Shakira, and Enrique Iglesias. And we have country stars Miranda Lambert and Luke Bryan. Additionally, we have international chart-topping artists like Of Monsters and Men from Iceland, Zaz from France, Empire of the Sun from Australia, Ricardo Arjona from Latin America, Ed Sheeran and Emily Sandé from England. We also have the biggest electronic dance artists in the world, Calvin Harris, Avicii, and Martin Solveig. And of course, we have the hottest writer-producers who have written and produced the biggest songs that you've heard today. As Marty mentioned, our worldwide A&R team is the best in the industry. Our strategy is straightforward and highly effective. We identify and sign the best songwriters working today, and we help them develop their careers by connecting them with other artists, and we grow our business by aggressively licensing and increasing awareness of their music. I'll give you some examples of this artist investment strategy in a moment. We're disciplined and efficient in our deal making, and we're really fast. We empower our people to engage in the negotiating process as early as possible, ideally before competitors even become aware of the new talent. We analyze all deals to ensure they're financially prudent and creatively smart. We work closely with all of the major record labels and have tremendous synergies with Sony Music and both the film and television businesses within Sony Pictures. We also take a global approach to music, and that involves regular communication among our creative and licensing teams all around the world. As Marty mentioned in detail, those teams are led by some of the most respected executives in the music business. In the last few months, we've seen incredible chart successes by our writers. Last week's headline in Billboard magazine, which read, "Sony ATV's dominance grows," really said it all. For the third calendar quarter for this year, Sony ATV had an industry-leading 33% market share of the top 100 songs played on the radio in the United States, more than our competitors Universal and Warner Chappell combined. Our songwriters were represented on 59 of the top 100 songs on the radio, including the #1 song for the quarter, Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke, featuring Pharrell and T.I. Going back to our strategy of investing in new artists to grow their careers and our business, here are a few examples of how it's paid off. Though he's recently become a household name, our relationship with Pharrell Williams extends back to when he was originally signed to EMI 14 years ago, where, like Marty, I spent the majority of my career. When we took over EMI, Pharrell was one of the first artists who we identified as having potential for future success. In that short time, Pharrell became instrumental in the creation of 2 of the biggest songs of this year, as the co-writer and featured artist on Daft Punk's Get Lucky, which went to #1 all around the world, and as the producer and co-writer and featured artist on Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines, which also was a hit around the world, and set a record as the song with the highest ever US radio audience. Pharrell himself is also signed as an artist to Columbia Records. Among the many projects he is now involved with is writing the score with Hans Zimmer for the Sony Pictures' Amazing Spider-Man 2. Pitbull is another Sony music artist who we signed to a publishing deal in 2011. At that time, Pitbull was proven at a local level. Our strategy was to help Pitt go from Mr. 305, which was his nickname at the time, also the local area code of Miami, to Mr. Worldwide. We worked with other Sony divisions to provide him greater exposure and writing opportunities. For example, we introduced him to Sony Pictures, who needed a song for Men in Black 3. He wrote and performed the song Back in Time, which became a hit single and used to promote the film. We're also developing a TV show, a reality show with Sony Television, tentatively called The Music Factory. It's a show about songwriters living in a house together who collectively or individually write songs for today's biggest recording artist. We arranged for Pitbull to become an executive producer on the show, and we've pitched other Sony ATV writers to become cast members. Sony ATV will publish all of the songs written for the show with Sony Television. And finally, a story that I'm particularly proud of is Lady Gaga, who we signed in 2008, before anyone had ever heard of her. She was signed to Interscope Records at the time, and she certainly was not a priority yet. Our strategy was to bring awareness of her songs around the world by proactively promoting them for film and television opportunities. In the 9 months before she became a worldwide superstar, we had over 30 placements in TV shows all around the world. As a result, by the time her songs were played on the radio, and before anyone had bought a Lady Gaga song or CD, we had helped create awareness of her music. In January 2009, her single Just Dance hit the #1 position in the UK and US charts, and her songs continue to be among our biggest earners. For example, as you saw, Born This Way from her last album was one of our biggest earners in the 12 months ended June 2013 due to a combination of record sales, airplay, and sync income. So whether it's investing in proven talent like Pharrell and Pitbull to grow their audiences, or discovering new talent like Lady Gaga and helping to introduce them to the world, Sony ATV's strategy of partnering and developing global talent has a strong track record of success. And with that, I'll hand it back to Marty. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. I'd like to take us through our final strategy point on digital growth. The ways in which people obtain and interact with music has shifted over the past 10 years. From buying a CD to purchasing a digital download to accessing subscription services. Our digital revenue can generally be placed into two categories: mechanical and performance. Mechanical revenue is generated from downloads, where Apple iTunes is the market leader, while performance revenue is generated from interactive streaming services such as Spotify, Google Play, and Sony's Music Unlimited, and internet radio services such as Pandora and Apple's recently launched iTunes Radio. While income from downloads is currently the largest component of our digital income, we're seeing a shift from downloads to streaming services and expect these services to become an integral part of our overall digital income. For us, our digital income is an area that is growing rapidly and has more than doubled in the last 2 years. It's widely acknowledged that the lion's share of industry growth will come from various digital income streams, and eventually digital will overtake physical. I'm confident that we are well positioned to take advantage of this growth. I believe that Sony ATV's future is exciting and bright, and why wouldn't it be? You're looking at the greatest music publishing company that ever existed, with the greatest music catalog, the greatest roster of songwriters, and the greatest management team in the business. In the words of one of our famous James Bond themes, nobody does it better.